This is the evaluation session, and we have two wonderful evaluators lined up for you to give their overview of what their opinion is for our wonderful speakers. So, without further ado, Mr. Anthony Navarro or Julie Jones.
I've taken on this particular evaluation trepidation, knowing how good your other speeches were. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know. So, but I love. I'm privileged to be able to do so. Let's see. Great job on researching a great example. Going from a man credited with saving 2 billion lives to the one man who did one small thing that made a huge difference, showing us the great example of that butterfly effect. We need to be more cognizant as a people as to how our actions impact everyone around us, sometimes in a negative way. I had a recent example of just saying one little thing in jest, and someone took it totally wrong, which required a lot of repair among different relationships. But yes, the good things too, we need to be reminded. So great aspect of inspirational speech, letting us see how much of a difference we can make. And sometimes we get stuck in the bars and don't know just what a difference we make to other people till years later they say, remember that thing you said that changed my life, so wonderful thing. It reminded me of the Brooklyn Bridge plaque. My wife and I used to walk the Brooklyn Bridge 3 or 4 times a week when we lived down there, and there's a plaque about the size of this whiteboard that had all the accolades of John Roebling and what a great thing he did, and at the bottom it said, behind every great work of man, there's a woman. And so every one person, you know, you might not get the spotlight, but you make a great difference. For projection and emotion, as being an inspirational speech, your voice is probably the biggest tool in your arsenal. You got body language, you got vocabulary, but the aspect of projecting your voice and instilling that emotion is the most powerful arsenal in that tool in your arsenal in that type of speech. So I would encourage you to use that more in these types of speeches. I received a lot of data on this speech, you know, all the different things on that George Washington Carver example. So improve on that and maybe reduce the amount of data that we get. Also, be a little cautious on how we do our setup. We want to know what little differences we can make, and especially, you know, the things that are going on in the world, the Boston bombing and other things. We don't need to be taken any farther down. We're already down. We know what our lives are. We want to be brought up. So you can tell us where we are, perhaps, and don't spend a lot of time having to bring us down to bring us up, because we're already down. So spend your efforts not having to waste time, in essence, trying to set the stage. We're already set because we're in this life. Just bring us up. And instead of using a lot of external examples, again, a great example of George Washington Carver. Never would have even thought about the father that took him out of the woods. I didn't even know that part of the story. But perhaps use internal examples of ourselves or yourself, so we have more personalization, so we have more ownership of the story. I can go to any motivational website and find 30 examples of really great, inspiring stories, but we want to hear our stories. We want to see what we've done in our lives and bring ourselves up rather than say, well, I can't do that. That was George Washington Carver, or something along those types of lines. So inspire us from our own lives or your own life when you give a speech. And in the comedy speech, you owned it because those were your stories. So you know, give us a great inspirational example in your life that had a butterfly effect that you found out years later that someone told you about. At the close, I love the prayer about deliver me. Basically, I paraphrase it saying, Lord, deliver me from mediocrity. And that is the thing we are all inspired to do. We don't want to go to heaven and hear, yeah, you can come in. We want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You've done a lot of the things we were given. So Julie, well done on a laudable job on your final project for your CC.